Oh well. Karma's a bitch.
Salmon Run isn't so much difficult as it is unintuitive. In Turf War, you want to split up, don't spam the chat, paint the floor, and don't fucking squid bag, I swear to god! In Salmon Run, however, you want to group up, use the chat often, painting walls can save your life, and go crazy at the end with celebration. Its 4-player cooperative nature, where you use impractical weapons to take out giant enemy creatures, kinda reminds me of another game series I really like. And like in any mode, some weapons are more viable than others. And because Salmon Run at its core isn't super difficult, Splatoon 2 relies on manufactured difficulty, forcing the mode to be harder depending on what weapons are in rotation. Which is why I've made the definitive Salmon Run weapon tier list. And I'm rating weapons based off their ability to take out both salmonids and boss salmon efficiently, maintain turf control, and their mobility in moving around the map, turning in eggs, and staying out of harm's way. I won't go super in depth for every weapon since I don't want this video to be 600 years long, and I'm going to be looking at them from how they fare at the professional level, and from the perspective of a player who's equally good at every weapon class, so it'll be as objective as possible. Of course, it's also based on my own experiences, so it won't really be 100% objective. Also, since you can't actually pick your weapon in Salmon Run unless you're playing locally, thereby making this whole video pretty pointless. I'll also throw in some pro tips to help people out, because from what I've seen while playing, not everyone knows all of these. And these tips will be a little bit more advanced than use the Stingray on the mothership. But seriously, use the Stingray on the mothership, Mike. Starting off, we got C tier. These are either perfectly average weapons, also known as or the weapons whose strengths perfectly balance out their weaknesses. They're all very viable weapons. You get any of these in the rotation, you're gonna be aight. First are your short-range, rapid-fire weapons. Splattershot Jr., Splash-O-Matic, Sploosh-O-Matic, and Dapple Dualies. They're great at taking out big groups of little guys and making paths for egg retrieval, but because they're short-range, they also put you in danger's way. The Sloshing Machine has pretty okay range and mobility, but its janky hitbox can make reviving teammates tough, and hitting Small Fry near impossible. The Splatbrella does fine, except its shield is mostly useless against anything other than steelhead bombs. Due to its consistent output, the Clash Blaster is really the only decent blaster for Salmon Run, but more on that later. And with the Squeezer, you basically only ever want to use the tap shots and not short range mode, since they have more range and do more damage. Pro tip! If you're playing on Marooner's Bay, you know, the one with the big boat on it. No, not that one! At the beginning of a run, before wave 1 starts, paint the walls of the elevator to the right. Seriously, it'll save your life and the lives of your team members. Alright, next up is D tier. You're at a slight disadvantage compared to C tier, but you should be fine as long as you just don't overextend. Heavy and mini Splatlings have great output when fully charged, but you're very vulnerable between charges, which can be bad if the salmon are closing in from all sides. The Ink Brush is good at making paths and returning eggs quickly, but has very little damage output and very short range. You can't even hit steelheads on level ground. Undercover Brella is in a similar situation, fast shooter but little damage, and there have been times when the shield is up but I still took damage. The L3 and H3 have pretty good damage output and range, but are awkward and clunky weapons to use, and the same goes for the Glugla Dualies. And then there's the 5 blasters. These blasters are not good at covering ground to make good paths, and having to get directs to have good damage output is just too unreliable when the salmon horde is approaching from all sides. Pro tip! I can't believe how many people at Professional still don't know this, but here we go. This means high tide, this means normal tide, this means low tide. In high tide, stay up high or you gon' die. Normal tide is, well, normal. And in low tide, you need to get your behind to the show line. The E tier weapons are just not good for this mode. I'm sorry, guys. You're not totally screwed if you get them, but just like trying to watch the movie Suicide Squad, it won't be easy. The charger with or without the scope is just not great, and I know that chargers can hit multiple enemies in a perfectly straight line, but they just charge too slowly to be really reliable. The scope is more accurate, but with the non-scope you can see while aiming, so it's pretty much like trying to pick the faster of two turtles. Chargers are great at one-shotting steelheads, but that's about it. The Squiffer and Bamboozler are just as bad, if not worse. Just make sure you fully charge with the Squiffer and use tap shots with the Bamboo, and just try to stay alive. And finally, the Dynamo Roller and Hydro Splatling are in here. They both have high output, yet suffer from lack of mobility and long wind-up times. And with no Ink Saver main to equip for Salmon Run, you get 3 full charges with the Hydra and 5 flings with the Dynamo, which is not good. Pro tip! During the Salmon Run tutorial, Splatoon straight up lies to you and says that you gotta wait around and take out the bluefin guys before they take your eggs. But in higher difficulty levels, you don't have time to wait around. Obviously, if you see one, take it out quick. But if you wait around, then boss salmon will start appearing on the other side of the map, and your team will quickly get overwhelmed. Hooey, here we go, F tier. We got the bottom feeders of Salmon Run, and it's 3 floppy one-eyed monsters. The E-leaders charge too slowly. I know there's probably some E-leader main who's gonna be like, you don't know what you're talking about. The E-leader is actually the best weapon in Salmon Run because it has a lot of range. You probably just don't know how to use it. I once got 300 eggs playing solo on professional outside during a blizzard blindfolded. But when it comes to turfing, taking out salmon efficiently, and mobility to dodge and quickly counterattack, the E-leaders just don't cut it. Plus, seeing as how I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who's equally good at all weapon classes, not a charger main, which is a hypothetical player that doesn't actually exist, this is the conclusion I've come up with. And what do I need to say about the GooTuber? Does anyone even like this weapon? It's a splat charger, but it charges slower and with less range. And if you think that sounds bad, you're right. It's almost as if the GooTuber just shouldn't exist. Fancy that. Pro tip? Apparently you can do this. Alright, after the shitstorm that was the bottom tiers, let's take a look at the upper tiers. B tier has some weapons that actually give you an advantage in this mode. The Splat and Flingza rollers play similarly enough in this mode, and that rolling around with them is great at taking out packs of little guys and making paths, and flinging has a pretty good damage output. The Slosher and Splattershot Pro are all around good weapons, being good at both killing and painting. Octobrush is good at quickly retrieving eggs and hitting multiple enemies at once, but unlike the Ink Brush, it actually has good damage and range. The Aerospray plays similarly to the short-range rapid-fire weapons in C tier, but slightly edges them out due to its ridiculously fast fire rate. The 52 and 96 have good range and damage, with the 96 having more range, and the 52 having faster shots. And then there's also these Tetra Dualies that, at the time of writing, have only recently come out, and I barely had the chance to use them in Salmon Run. In fact, a couple weeks ago, they announced the weapon, showed pictures of the weapon, and then the next weekend they released another sloshing machine. Another sloshing machine. Another sloshing machine? Another sloshing machine. Another sloshing machine. Another sloshing machine. So I don't really know where to put them, but for my brief time using them, they have a pretty good fire rate and can roll 4 times, and that's pretty good, so I'll put them right here. Pro tip! Before you go to a concert or play laser tag, make sure you use a lint brush on your shirt to get the dirt and dust and dog hair off, or else you're just gonna look silly. A tier are your best of the best, the cream of the crop, the meatballs in the spaghetti! They're all great weapons for Salmon Run, so get ready for some really riveting commentary. The splatter shot, it's really good. Dualies and dually squelchers, they're good too. Good range, good fire rate, dodge rolls save your life. Tri-slosher, it's easy mode here too. NZEP basically plays the same as the splatter shot, so it's good. Pro tip: sometimes when your whole team is dead and you're the only one left, you just gotta act like it's Mission Impossible and take to the sky. Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da-da, ba-ba-da, ba-da-da, ba-ba-da, ba-da-da. We're not done yet. There's one weapon all by itself in S tier that's all above the others in Salmon Run. It goes by many names: the Distant Destroyer, the Coward's Cannon, the Pussy's Pistol. It's the Jet Squelcher. And the reason why it's so good is because it's able to easily take out salmon without putting you in harm's way, since most salmon use melee attacks. And since it has such a good fire rate, it's good at close range too. That's it, it's the best weapon. Pro tip: here's something I've seen making the rounds online, but a lot of players still haven't seen it yet. So when the salmon are restless, also known as Salmon Rush, it's easy to beat, but also easy to fuck up. But the best way to completely cheese this mode is for that when you're the one being targeted, swim up on a wall and let your teammates take them out, and then switch when they target someone else. This works best on the Lost Outpost map, however there are spots on every map where you can do this. You thought the Jet Squelcher was the best weapon? Ha ha ha, silly Squiddo. The best weapons are the two Grizzcrow weapons, the Grizzcrow Blaster and the Grizzcrow Brella. These things are basically shotgun machine guns. You can take out a group of Cohawks completely by yourself. Just watch your ink consumption while you're shooting and you're gonna do great. Pro tip: the event that people struggle with the most in Salmon Run is probably Grillers, because no one definitively knows how to beat them. Until today. The hardest part about fighting Grillers aren't the Grillers themselves, it's these little fuckers who follow behind them and overwhelm you. So when a Griller first appears, whoever isn't targeted and has a decent weapon should rush out towards the Griller and draw the aggro of the small fry, since they go for whoever is closest, not necessarily who the Griller is targeting. The remaining of the people should focus on pounding the Griller's pink area. Also keep in mind that Grillers can't climb up walls or fall down them, they can only traverse slopes. So if need be, you can make a Griller change direction by hopping on and off walls in certain spots. This can be useful if your teammates get taken out and you need to buy some time to revive them.
What just happened? Alright, hey! Alright, good job, guys.
Aw shit, I've got the specials! Okay, obviously the best one is Splashdown, able to clear out an area and revive your teammates when you're in a pinch with the old click of the stick. Second is Inkjet, since it can propel you out of harm's way and attack at range. Just make sure to activate it long before you're totally boned, since it's easy to die during takeoff. Bob Launcher's alright, good at reviving, but kinda situational. And Stingray is very situational. You could potentially take out a lot of salmon if you're in a safe area, but sometimes it might actually get you killed.